Okay, all right. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We are back. We are going to be continuing on with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week, actually, we were supposed to look at chapter 26 last week. We got a little long. So we'll go ahead and we'll do like a little overview of 26, and then we will deal with 27, probably mostly, and some things that that we'll find as a result of the laws that we see in chapter 27. We want to have in our minds, what we see over here. You shall make a partition. You shall make a partition. Understanding that when we look at the tabernacle, there was, there was separations, right? There was levels of separations with the tabernacle, with the idea of making there be a separation of the holy things from everything else, right? Distinctions were made. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about some of the different significances of the things that was used to make the distinctions, and various topics that coincide with all of that. All right, very good. So that being said, I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of, I just want to go over briefly 26, not get too much into it, because there's things within 26 that are spoken about again in 27. But just so we know what we're seeing over here, we look, we see if let's just read 1 through, actually, let's just read the first verse right there. Just read that first verse.
And make the dwelling place with 10 curtains of fine woven linen, and blue and purple and scarlet material. Make them with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman.
Okay, so when we see going down through the next, 6 verses or so, it talks about these curtains that are made. Because if we think about if we could kind of visualize, I should have got some visual help over here. If we think about the tabernacle, it was a huge tent, right? And so when we think about these coverings, these curtains that were made, we see that it had these angels, these cherubim, woven into the works, right? So it basically had these angels kind of embroidered into the curtains, right? And so what we want to think about going forward, what we'll talk more about next in the next chapter over here, is the fact that they had these cherubim that were interwoven into these curtains, and we have also these various colors that are interwoven into this, right? You have this fine linen and blues and purples and scarlet materials that was used in the making of these curtains, right? So when we think about the curtains, we basically thinking about the outer the outer portions of the tabernacle. What kind of was the what covered the walls? I guess you would say what went around because the and then from read verse 7.
And you shall make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the dwelling place. Make 11 curtains.
Okay. Let's see. Also, let's see. And so now they're talking about the coverings not over top. So it wasn't like a just like it had perimeters, borders, walls, but there was a roof as well, right? And so now when we talk about these coverings, the tent that was over the tabernacle or the dwelling place, it's the roof. So they did with the roof. Now we talked about some of the things that they did in terms of waterproofing and all of that, right? And so again, we'll get into some of the specifics over here, but we want to just see that we have these coverings that were made for the walls, these coverings that were made for the roof, and just for instance, let's see, the length is what's verse 8 say right there?
The length of each curtain is 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. One measure to the 11 curtains.
Okay, so you're talking about 11 curtains, and you're talking about these things that is 30 cubits wide and 4 cubits. Hold on. 30 cubits, they was long, and 4 cubits wide. And so they say like a cubit is like 18 inches, right? So if you said, yeah, like the length of half your arm, the average length of half, so roughly 18 inches. So if you said 18 inches times 30, that's 540 divided by 12. We're talking about 45 feet, right? So when we think about 30 cubits, that's about 35 feet long, right? And so they had 11 of those, right? 11 curtains, right? And so just so we think about, we see these, I got to think about things in feet because, I don't want to hear about centimeters or cubits. I don't know what that means. You know what I mean?
I hear cubits, I think of Rubik's Cube.
Right. You can't even, it's not even like a tangible thought for you, like, because we don't think about things in that way, right? So again, we have the covering, we have the curtains, and then also it goes on to talk about more. So if we go down, let's see, if we go down to 14, just read 14 and 15, just so we can get an idea what's going on, and we'll go to the next chapter.
All right.
14 and 15.
And you shall make a covering of ram skin dyed red for the tent, and a covering of fine leather above that. And for the dwelling place, you shall make the boards of acacia wood standing up.
Okay, very good. So they had the walls, basically these boards were kind of like these walls that had coverings over top of them, right? So it was like they had this 30 boards, these 30 walls, and then they also had the tent kind of overlay over that. And then they also talked about the covering of the whole tent, which they used these ram skins for the tent and the covering of fine leather. And then we remember last week we talked about how this fine leather was actually this porpoise skins, or this obscure animal that was used for the covering and protection of the tabernacle. Of course, because we're talking about this tent out in the wilderness, you know, it's got to be weatherproof, right? And so we talked about some of that. So if we looked at in the following verses, it goes into the specifics of the sockets and the hooks and the rings and all of the things in terms of building it. But I want to jump down to 31 and focus on some things over here. If we jump down to 31 and read 31 through 34.
And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen, the work of skilled workman, made with cherubim. And you shall put it on the 4 columns of acacia wood overlaid with gold, the hooks of gold upon sockets of silver. And ye shall hang the veil from the hooks, and shall bring the ark of the witness there behind the veil, and the veil shall make a separation for you between the set apart and the most set apart place. And you shall put the lid of atonement upon the ark of the witness in the most set apart place.
Okay, okay, let's stop right there. So we see over here at 31, again, we see you have these same colors, the same color scheme going on. We have the blues and the purple and the scarlet and the fine woven linen and the work of and with the cherubim with the embroidered cherubim put on there, right? And so this veil that was created, and again, and it goes into where this is, right? So you have the main tent, right? And then inside of the tent, you have the holy place, and then inside of behind the holy place, you have the most holy place, right? So you have these divisions that's made, and this veil that they're calling is this covering that is created with the same type of artistry that goes into the curtains for the entire situation. We have here in the most holy place where they put the actual Ark of the Covenant. And so I want to pay attention to the fact that we have this holy place, right? And then we have these separations within the holy place. And then also we have the beautification of the tabernacle as a whole, and also kind of what these things kind of signify. Now, first of all, when we look over here, first of all, we see that we have on all of the coverings, we have again these cherubims, these angels, the same thing that we see on the ark, the lid of the Ark of the Covenant, right? And so when we think about how the ark is the mercy seat is constructed on as the lid of the Ark of the Covenant, where you have these 2 angels that are facing each other. And then also when we think about different scriptures that we see where you see the most holy place in the heavenlies, and you have these angels that are continuously covering their face and flying with wings all over the place, right? In the presence of the Most High. So, and just the fact that we're looking at these cherubim in the first place, it kind of it's easy for you to think about these things and cause you to think about their spiritual significance, right? If I see an angel, it kind of causes me to think about spiritual things, right? Automatically. And so when we look over here with the first of all, the most holy thing that's in all of this, the being the Ark of the Covenant, having as its lid these cherubim that sit on top. But not only that, that veil that separates. So there's a necessity for there to be this separation from the most holy place, from the next holy place. And the thing that's causing the separation is this veil that also has these angels on it, right? And so, not as if to say that the Most High needs to be protected, so to speak, but we do see it causes you to think about things. To me, anyway, it caused me to think about the idea of protection, right? If you have, if you just think about things from a carnal perspective, important people, they're protected, right? Everybody can't just run up on the president or some dignitary or whatever, right? There's people to keep off, keep away. Like I remember back in the 80s, whenever the Secret Service guy jumped in front of the bullet, the guy that was trying to shoot Ronald Reagan, right? That's their job, to give up their own selves for the protection of the one that they're protecting. And so, but the idea is to have these things, these beings around to form this layer of protection. And then yet we can think about protection or just separation, right? There's degrees of separation that are made by these beings, by these, in this case, by these objects. And again, now these objects are things that are representing something else, right? They're representing what we see in the heavenly tabernacle, right? It's an earthly representation of that spiritual tabernacle. And so again, we have this reoccurring thing of these angels, right? Which caused me to think about, it caused me to go back to Bereshit. So let's look over in Bereshit chapter 3 over here. And let's drop down. Let's see. Let's start reading. Let's start reading at 22.
And Yahweh Elohim said, "See, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever." You said 23 too?
Yeah, keep going.
So Yahweh Elohim sent him out of the garden of Eden to till the ground from which he was taken.
24.
And he drove the man out, and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way up to the tree of life.
Okay, so when we look back over here to, remember we talked about a few weeks ago the idea of when we see in the scriptures the end is like unto the beginning, right? We see back over here we have the tree of life, this thing that over here, because of the fallen state of man, the Most High didn't want for man to eat from the tree of life, lest it kind of get them in a perpetual state of whichever state they was currently in, right? He didn't want for them to live forever in that state, right? And so what happened was, we think about the garden, right? We think about the garden, this place where the Most High dwelt, right? Where we could probably, call it the most holy place, right? The place where he dwelt, the place that he created for man to dwell with him, right? Mm-hmm. And so because of the uncleanness that man manifests with his disobedience it was necessary for him to be taken away. He could no longer be within that most holy place. And then to be sure that he stayed out of the most holy place, we have these cherubim, right?
Mhm.
Placed over here at the entrance to the garden with their flaming swords, which turned in every direction, right? To guard the way. It's interesting that it only says, right, he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and not like at all sides.
Right.
So I guess there ain't no back door to the
One
garden.
way in.
It's one way in, one way in, one way out.
One way in.
Right?
So one way.
It's one way. Right? There wasn't multiple entrances. It says, and the flaming sword was turned in every way to guard the way to the tree of life. So it guarded the way to the tree of life. But what I'm paying attention to is the fact that we have this picture again now of these cherubim that are used as the this separation. They are the dividing ingredient, right? They're the thing that's making this distinction, the separation between the holy place and outside of that. They're the ones that make the distinction between inside and out, right? And so we see over here now, again, understanding what took place, the fact that man, Adam and Hava, they got to this place of disobedience, going against what it was that the Most High had instructed for them to be doing, bringing upon themselves a condition of sin, right? Where a condition of uncleanness, where they could no longer be in the vicinity of where the Most High was, right? And so they had to be removed and they had to be blocked from coming back in, right? And so again, the thing that we see that's doing the blocking is these cherubim, right? The thing that's making the distinction, the thing that's making the separation, is these cherubim. So we see over here now, when we think about the tabernacle, right? You have the same situation where you have these pictures of these cherubim who are again making this separation, making this distinction between what's holy and then what's not holy, right? And so that picture there, I like when we see over there this picture that we're seeing, because it causes us to kind of understand that the scriptures again is cyclical. They keep on doing the same things over and over again, but presenting it to you in different ways. Right. And so we see initially the Most High showing you first, he's showing you holiness and unholiness. He's showing you that you can't have a mixture of holiness and unholiness. He can't have that. As soon as that happened, as soon as that transgression came about, we go back in the story, right? The Most High is like, hold on, where my people at? Where y'all at? What happened? I know something's off with you, right? Something ain't right, right? There's a connection or a disconnection with the Most High as a result of this lawlessness, right? This separation that happens as a result of stepping outside of the Most High's parameters. At this time, there wasn't even that many parameters, but there was still parameters. And once Adam and Hava stepped outside of that, they made a type of separation, spiritually separation, because of their disobedience. And then the Most High took it a step further and made there be a physical as well as a spiritual separation when he tossed them out. Well, I don't want to say tossed. He placed them out. He led them out, out of the garden, right? And so again, what we want to focus on is this idea of separation between what's holy and what's unholy, right? And again, we talked about this some the other week when we deal with the tabernacle, again, as us as being the tabernacle, right? And that's what we want to go back and forth with as we deal with this today, is the fact that we as the followers of the Most High, we as the disciples of Yeshua, we as those who have declared Yeshua to be our master, right? Our ruler, our sovereign ruler, our king, right? We have to represent him in a way that is congruent with his self, right? Because we look over here, the Most High didn't even have there wasn't no leniency over here with this thing that we see over in Genesis and Bereshit. They stepped out of line, and then that was just it. You can't be doing this, right? I said it's supposed to be like this. You can't decide what you think is supposed to be right or wrong. You're just out. Mm-hmm. I set it up clear for you over here, and you decided against that. So therefore, right, it's out. Mm-hmm. Right? So he makes that distinction over there. And so we want to keep going over here. We want to look at this some more. We just want to go back to Exodus. We want to still deal with that same verse, because we'll get back to this idea of the veil and the cherubim. But I want to talk about over here, if we look, and what was we in 26 and 31. I want to pay attention over here to the first part of this. I want to pay attention to some of these colors over here, because again, we can already see from the end of the verse that these things have significances, right? It's not just for nothing. He didn't just say, well, it'd be nice if we put some angels on here, right? That'll look cute, right? He wasn't over there with doing some interior decorating and like, oh, well, it'd be nice if we had some little angels just on there. Maybe he was like that, because when you think about, look, we as these created beings that we are created in the image of the Most High. So when we think about how man can sit up here and draw these beautiful things, or patch words together in a beautiful way, or mold clay in a particular way that's beautiful, or create anything, we're manifesting the thing that the Most High put inside of us, right? To be these creative individuals, because he's creative. We sat up there and we went out to the tabernacles, and we saw the just the natural beauty, the thing that the Most High does, right? It's beautiful. He's an artist, the Most High is, right? He sit up here and make these things. He made all of everything that we can sit up here and go and look at. He made it. And the stuff that he didn't make with his hands, he put in the minds of people that they can sit up there and make it, right? And so when we think about these things over here, again, the Most High, he's giving you these things. He's showing you these things that he's doing, but he's also giving you significance with it. So we want to look at, we talked about, we're going to get back to the cherubim. Let's talk about these different colors and why. Like, why would he even use blue and purple and scarlet and the fine woven linen, which when we think about fine woven linen, that's what we will think about white. So if you think about the temple colors, you have white, scarlet, which is like red, purple, and blue, right? And also gold would be added to that in terms of the colors that are used inside of the temple.
I have some color symbolisms here.
Oh, we're gonna get into some colors right over here.
Yeah.
So let's look over here. Let's think about first of all blue. Right? Oh, what did I just do? I don't want to do that. Okay, very good. Let's look at the color blue, right? Because we see over here as the color. So if we think about, let's see what this word is first of all. Let's see what this word is. I think it's over here. I know what it is. I just want to pull it up. Right? Okay. So we have this techalet. Right? And so we look at this, it says, what do it say? The Curulean muscle. That's not like a muscle on your arm.
Yeah.
That's like a muscle. No, it's not. It's not French. Oh, yeah. Like a muscle.
Eat with muscles.
Yeah. You can't even say it without having like an accent. Right? And say, so that is, it says the color violet obtained therefrom or stuff dyed with blue. Okay, so interestingly enough now, again, now think about what we was talking about with this mysterious animal from the other week, where we weren't able to verify whether or not this was a clean or unclean animal, right? It's still up in the air. We don't even know. At this point. When we look it up, we see it's giving you various animals. We don't know, but potentially is animals that we wouldn't think of as being clean. But over here, when we look at this word, this techelet, we see that it is this cerulean muscle. It's a muscle. Like we know that we know that's not clean in terms of food, right? Yet this is what is used not only in the tabernacle, but in the thing that the Most High said that we're supposed to have in all of our garments, right? This cord of blue.
That's very interesting.
This thing that he told us in Numbers 15 and 38 through 40 that he said for us to put in all of our clothes, this cord of blue, right? This thing that is number one on the list of colors that he has in the incorporation of the beautification of his tabernacle tents and coverings. And not only that, but the veil, the thing upon which the cherubim lay, the thing that represents what we talked about last week in terms of the visions that we saw from the I believe that was Ezekiel chapter 1, where there was the vision of the it was in Ezekiel chapter 1, but it was also in Exodus chapter 25, where at the feet of the Most High they saw this path of sapphire, which is blue, right? And so when we think about the presence of the Most High, the thing that gets us to think about the presence of the Most High, the way that we emulate it, the way that we reproduce it, is by this cerulean muscle, this thing that's unclean, right? And so I want to talk about that just a little bit, because even when you just kind of try to think about it, there's a slight little bit of a conflict, because why would we sit up here and talk about this thing that's unclean and at the same time think about we talk about the thing that's making the separation between the most holy place. Not only is it the covering for the tabernacle, but it's also the separation that's made in the most holy place. How do we talk about this shellfish, which we know from well, at this point we don't know, but if we look forward in Leviticus chapter 11, the Most High tells us that, you know, this thing is unclean. And again, if we think back to Noah, we know that Noah was able to make a distinction between clean and unclean animals. So we can't say that clean animals, clean and unclean, began in Leviticus chapter 11. It was codified as just like all of the law was codified as the Most High gave it. But some things we see are things that are reiterated in the codification of the law. Some things are changed. I don't want to get too deep on us now, but some things are changed. Some things that the Most High allowed before he codified the law, he stops it with the codification of it, with the oral giving of it. So what I'm saying is that the Most High gave a law to Adam from the beginning that was passed down through to all the way up the chain. And we're able to know that clean and unclean animals actually was one of the things that Noah knew about, right? And so when we look over here, it's not as if to say that they didn't know what was clean and unclean. It's not as if to say that he didn't just make up, you know, in Leviticus chapter 11, what was clean and unclean. That was something that was already in place. So with that in mind, I want to look at this because of the fact that we see this animal that is really undisputed. It's not even like a thing. Everyone knows that this color comes from this muscle. And it's something that we don't think about. It's something that goes on to this very day. If you look at various like there's a red color that comes from a bug.
Yes, it is.
That's in like some people eat. Some people eat. I actually hate yogurt. Yeah, I can't stand the smell of yogurt. But some people, when I come downstairs and everybody in my family loves yogurt, I come downstairs and I smell it in the air. Yeah, what's that foul? What's that foul stench? Oh, the kids must be eating yogurt, right? But I'm saying all that just to say certain yogurts, particularly the berry flavors, the red berry flavored ones, are colored with this bug. It's called like cochineal or something like that. And you can look on the thing. Well, you can't look on a thing at our house because we don't eat the ones with the cochineal in it. But I'm saying somebody could look at the ingredients at the store. You go to John Nigel right now and see cochineal or something that's like it on the ingredients and see that they still to this day got this bug in it. Now, what I want to talk about over here is the difference is when we talk about clean and unclean, these things are clean and unclean for the purposes of food, right? It's unclean because it's food and you can't eat it. Not to say that just because it's not clean that you can't use it. They obviously use it because they made these things out of it. But we want to be totally transparent over here And because we want to look at a particular scripture over here, because we want to understand. First of all, let's turn to we're we're talking about the colors right now. We're gonna get back to Exodus, but I want to look over in Leviticus chapter 11 because this is what somebody gonna say when we talk about it. But we have to have a total understanding of the scriptures when we get into this, right? So let's look over here in Leviticus. Let me find it. 11. I don't know where it is. Let's see. Oh, verse 8. Let's read 7 and 8.
And the pig, though it has a split hoof, completely divided, yet does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you do not touch. They are unclean to you.
Okay, very good. Wait a second. That's say their carcasses you do not touch. Oh my goodness. Wait a second.
Stop.
Wait 1 minute over here. It said their carcasses you do not touch. That means I can't touch a dead pig.
So you can't even make no jacket or no shoes.
That means I can't play football because that's pig skin. That means that I can't buy.
Pair of New Balances.
Wait a second. I'm about to throw one at you right now. I'm about to tell you about it right over here. Let me put my face up here so you can see. That means that if you got a Bible that is like a bonded leather Bible, that bonded leather Bible that you got is probably pigskin.
Yeah.
When you get the fancy ones, those are usually cowhide.
Cowhide, yeah.
But that bonded leather one is usually pigskin. So you got a pigskin Bible.
Violated Bible.
Take that Bible and throw it in the garbage if you want to sit up there and say that the carcasses you do not touch. But I think what we have to do is look over here at this word over here. It's very interesting. We look over here at this word because we think about carcass. You just think about carcass. It's a dead animal, right? Yeah. But well, now see what you done said. Is like if you, it's kind of gets you close to the thought. But let's look at it. So if we look at this nebela, right, a flabby thing, so that's dead. That is a carcass or carrion. Idle, dead carcass, dead of itself, which dies of itself. Okay, and so there's a big difference between something that's just dead or something that dies of itself.
Yeah.
Right? Something that dies of itself, that's different, right? And so if we look over here, hold on, did I pull out the scripture? The Torah tells us, I don't know if somebody could find that. This Torah tells us that something that dies unto itself, we can't eat that thing. Right? I'd have to find it. I didn't write that down in my notes. But there's something that dies unto itself, you can't kill that thing. I mean, you can't touch that thing. That thing is unclean. But over here, when we look at this, based on the fact that we see these other scriptures where these things that are used that are potentially unclean, and we see within understanding what this word is that this translated as carcass, which is very broad, which anything could be a carcass. A dead thing is a carcass, right? I sat up here and watched some of these foreign cooking shows. When they're talking about meat that they're sitting up there cooking, they speak about it and use the word carcass. Okay. Yeah.
You found,
Okay, very good. Deuteronomy 14:21. What's that say right there?
Do not eat whatever dies of itself. Give it to the stranger who is within your gates to eat it, or sell it to a foreigner, for you are a set apart people to Yahweh, your Elohim.
Okay.
Do not cook.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do not cook a young goat in its mother. Okay, milk. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So let's see. Let's just see what this is. I don't even know because I didn't even know what this verse was, right? Let me just see what this word is here. Just so we know. Same word. Right? So the word that's translated as dies of itself is our carcass word. Right? And so when we look over here, when we get a fuller understanding of what this word is, it's something that dies unto itself. Right? And so
not that you can't touch a pig. You
right.
just can't touch a pig that dies of itself.
Right. Exactly. So that's what the thing is getting up here and to say to us. And so when we think about that thought process, it helps us to understand the fact that this thing is not food for you. It's not food for you. But just the idea of handling it is not the same as you ingesting it.
Right. So when your mom, who might eat pork, says to you, "Hey, pass me that bacon out of the refrigerator,"
you hit her with the script,
and you say, "Oh, I can't touch that, Mom."
Yeah,
that's not what it's talking about.
That's not what it's talking about. You're not eating it, right? Because I went into plenty people's houses, and it's time to eat, and it's self-serve. Right, it's not like you send the plates being brought to you. Self-serve. You go in the kitchen and you lift up the lids off of the pot yourself, and you put the plates on the food on your plate. And many a times, I done picked up the wrong lid and picked up that chitlin lid by mistake.
That smell.
Just right up, right, yeah. And so it's not food for you, right? But the idea is if somebody just cooks it, it's not the same as it dying unto itself, because now you're talking about something that's diseased. That's why it just died of itself. It just sat there and died of itself. You don't know how it got there or whatever, right?
So basically the Most High is protecting us from something that could actually, spread. You know what I mean? That could have had some type of disease on it. You touch it, and now, because
it's more than just now. If this is a diseased thing, you have to trust in the fact that they cooked this thing. Cook this thing properly. Because if they didn't, the disease is still there, and then you touching it, right? And then, or if it's not cooked yet, and you're touching it, you're getting the same stuff on you that caused it to die of itself.
Right. But that stranger, you can get after that stranger.
Well, the stranger, right? He can have it, right? You take it. You know what I'm saying? You take the thing. And so the idea here is for us to think about the fact that, yes, this muscle is not food, and we can't eat it. But it's not to say that it's not something that we can't use for our purposes. We just not using it for food. He said that this stuff is not food for you. When I think about a pig, when I think about rats, when I think about dogs, when I think about ebus, when I think about all of these things, I don't think about food, right? It's just animals, right? It's just an animal. It's not food for me. Like when I think about cows or cute little lambs or funny looking eye goats, when I think about those things, I think about food. I think about some delicious stew, right? Hooked up with some potatoes or some carrots or something. When I look at the cute little lamb's face, right? But when I look at a pig, all I see is disgustingness. I think about the big old huge rats or something, right? When I see a shrimp, I don't think about, I want to dip that in some butter and eat it, squirt some lemon juice on it. When I look at it, I think about a roach. I think about a cockroach.
That Jacob sold Esau. It must have been good.
But again, it's food that you're thinking about, right? And so again, when we think about this muscle, this thing that the blue color comes from, we shouldn't think about it as like this nasty thing that's being used, because we're not thinking about it in terms of food. Right. We're thinking about it in terms of just our general use, which in this case is just dye for the beautification of these veils that are being used in the tabernacle.
Can I just say something about the outer layer that I was putting in my notes? Which represent, when we talk about the animal, we don't know exactly what it was, right? But they say badger or something like that.
Yeah, badger.
And we know from last week the skin was durable. It withstand the elements of the earth, whatever they came. Well, think about the Messiah. He withstood the elements of sin and protected us from the penalty of it. And as I shared with, I think it was you a while ago, and this was only my view. Everybody had different views of it. It was revealed to me about the color blue. As I explained to people, for instance, the earthly way. What color is blood before it's shed, before it's airborne? We'll say blue. So I'm like, okay. So when I was praying about it, I'm like, that was the blood that was to be shed for us. And we know that the law was a schoolmaster that brought us to the Hamashiach. So put that cord of blue in your tassel that you may do what? Remember my laws, statutes, and commandments. The cord of blue to me would be the blood that would be shed for us before it was airborne. That was my conclusion on that. I could be wrong, but it makes sense.
Yeah, even when you think about it in that way, it kind of helps what we're talking about over here. When we think about, okay, good. When we think about blue and what it represents, one of the things is the commandments. Right. One of the things before we deal with what it is that Yeshua did for us, before even we think about what Yeshua did for us, is in the framework of what we find in the commandments. And so this color blue does indeed cause us to think about, if we don't even say commandments, we say the color blue causes us to think about that which causes us to be reconciled or in right standing with the Most High, because that's all inclusive. That's the commandments. That's what Yeshua did for us. That's everything, right? That's the Most High Himself. When we think about the color blue, it causes us to think about the heavenlies. Not just from a physical standpoint, because we look in the daytime, we look outside and we see blue, right? Not just because we think about the fact that the Most High took the firmament and put the firmament in the sky, and the water in the sky and the water on the ground. When you look at them both, they both give you that idea of blue. But also the scripture we talked about before in Exodus chapter 24 and also Ezekiel chapter 1, where we think about the heavenlies, where we see this sapphire blue, right? The paved sapphire blue, right? And so this color blue causes us to think about the Most High. It causes us to think about the commandments. It causes us to think about specifically within the commandments, the fact that the commandments cause you to be like the Most High, right? And so this color blue, has a particular significance to it. He didn't just say, "Oh, this will look nice over here." I mean, he probably did say this, "Oh, this will look nice over here," but it also has a significance.
Yeah.
And so when we think about the scriptures, the Most High don't just arbitrarily just put things in the scriptures just for nothing.
Yeah.
It's always going to be connected to something that's greater, right? Not just this cool color that comes together if you sit up here and extract a particular thing from these particular muscles.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, this color blue is this thing. We could think about the waters, right? When we think about the waters, we talked about the sky, but we talked about the waters. So the blue could get you to think about the waters. We think about waters, we think about cleansing.
It's good you said that. I read an article about how those, the foreign people that were in Africa, somewhere of that nature, where all their houses were like a warmly colored blue, and they had blue bottles in the trees, and they said how the blue supposed to symbolizes them scaring off the demons, making them think they caught up in the water. I found that really interesting, man. They would use that blue like that.
It's an interesting color. If we think about, let's go over to. I can't remember why I picked this one over here. Let me pull it up. Let's look at John 4. Oh yes, very good. Let's look at John 4, 13 and 14.
Yeshua answered and said to her, everyone drinking of this water shall thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water I give him shall certainly never thirst. And the water that I give him shall become in him a fountain of water springing up unto everlasting life.
Okay, very good. When we think about the significance of what Yeshua is speaking about over here, he's not talking about literal water. He's looking at water and he's talking to this lady and relating what he's trying to say in terms of water, but what he's talking about is spiritual, right? He's talking about this literal physical thing, and he's dealing with it from a spiritual perspective, right? The water that I give is going to cause you to never need to go and find water again. In fact, not only that, it's going to cause water to come up out of you, like this place that you're coming to even get water. And again, we're talking about the color blue, right? The significance of the color blue that is causing you, that it can cause you to think about if you think about it from a spiritual perspective, right? And so we can see the idea of blue having this spiritual significance, right? Again, we're talking about the curtain, and specifically the veil that separates the holy from the most holy, the dividing point, the separation point, the place where the cherubim are at. So it's already giving you the idea of spiritual from the beginning, because we got the spirits, these spirit beings engraved on it, but also the colors that are being used also help you to think about it in that way, because again, we think about the idea of this blue and this spirit. Let me see this. What was I thinking about over here? Let me see this. I think it's what I think it is. Let's see. 737. No. Don't tell me I didn't write this one down. Okay, that's not it. What is that? Where is it where Yeshua is talking about the men that were as trees? Let me see here.
Where he was healing the blind man.
And then after it talked about the men as trees, it talked about also hold on, let me see here. Let me go pull this up. If I just look at men,
talking about where he was healing the blind man.
I don't know what verse is that.
It was Mark 8:24. And that's where he had put the mud on his eyes.
I'm not sure if that's it. I see. Oh, yeah. Yes. What is that? Mark chapter 8?
Mark chapter 8, verse 24.
Yes. Mark 8:24. Okay. The significance, though, is what he saw. So let's get the context, read 23 and 24. What we talking about here?
And taking the blind man by the hand, he led him out of the village, and having spit on his eyes, laying hands on him, he asked him, "Do you see at all?" And he looked up and said, "I see men like trees walking."
Very good. So we think about this, right? This don't make any sense. First of all, I see men, but they're like trees, but they're walking. Trees don't walk. Trees are still, unless we talk about the Lord of the Rings or something like that. Right? So he started seeing some spiritual things, right? Things in the spirit, right? What do it say? Hold on. We think about men that are walking like trees. Where do it talk about like a tree planted by rivers of water?
That's in the NT, right? That might be so.
I don't know where it is.
Numbers.
Hmm?
Okay. The valley was spread forth in the garden, the river's side, the trees, behind the loaves which the Lord planted, cedar trees beside the waters.
Oh yeah, it is first chapter 1. I didn't look very good. It's chapter 1, verse 3. What'd that say? Hold on, let's read 2 and 3.
But his delight is in the Torah of Yahweh, and he meditates in his Torah day and night. For he shall be as a tree planted by the rivers of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither, and whatever he does prospers.
Okay, very good. So Yeshua, when Yeshua sat up here and healed this man, right? And the man got an understanding as to what just happened to him. The thing that he saw was men that delighted in the Torah of Yahweh, right? Who were like these trees that was planted by rivers of water that were functioning properly, right? Because and prospering as a result of their attachment to those things that's connected to the Most High, right? Like they were these big, strong trees. That's why we talk about these trees that are, if you look at a tree that's planted by a river of water, it's a big old, strong, sturdy tree because it has ample access to its water source. And so again, thinking about the color blue, which is causes us to think about water, which causes us to think about the spirit, which causes us to think about the Most High, who is spirit, and causes us to think about how the Most High, who is spirit, deals with us, and that is through the spirit, right? And so when we have this color blue that he puts on his tabernacle, it causes us really to think about the spirit and how it is that he sustains us and how it is that he grows us and feeds us, right? And so again, when we look at this color blue that the Most High put in his tabernacle on this veil, you know, we get an idea as to why he chose this color, because it's giving you that significance of the Ruach, right? We can just nail it down and let it just be the Ruach, right? Because we think about if we say the blue is the cause of thinking about the heavenlies, well, the heavenlies where the Most High is, and He's spirit, right? And so that's blue. What else we got over there? Purple.
Here it is.
Hold on. Do we want to look at purple first?
No,
Let's
red.
look at
That
hold on. Well, and in the context of
second covering.
of 31, it gives you blue and purple. So let's look at purple, and then we'll look at crimson, right? So let's go back, or scarlet, same thing. So if we go down to look at purple, let's look at that for a little bit. Let me go back over here because let's see here, Exodus 20. What are we looking at? 26 and 31. Okay, 31 purple. Okay, so this is this word. That's a foreign origin. So in other words, it's not even really a Hebrew word. It's just something that, that's the name of what it is. And it's not even Hebrew. It don't even have Hebrew origins. This is just a Hebrew representation of this thing, right? So when they look at this thing, it's this argamon, a foreign origin, purple color of dyed stuff. Let me see. One of these things, no, that's red. So we see over here things that we could think about with the color purple. If we look at, because we already know that we could think about the fact that this is one of the colors that's used in all of the things that are included in the tabernacle. It's included in the high priest's garments. It's included in the coverings and the veils in the tabernacle. So we can already have that connection over there. But if we look at, let's see, some of these, if we think about, for instance, hold on, what do it say over here in Judges 8? What's that say there?
And the weight of the gold rings that he requested was 1,700 pieces of gold, beside the crescent ornaments and the pendants and the purple robes which were on the sovereigns of Midian, and besides the chains that were around their camel's neck.
Okay, very good. So first of all, we think about these are kings of Midian, right? And so when we think about these people, who they were, we're talking about people who are in the vicinity of Israel, right? Midian's not Israel, but they're in the vicinity. If we look at Midian and his descendants, he goes back to Abraham, right? And so we have a connection as far as lineage, but we also have a connection in terms of locality. And so these kings over here, they had on these purple robes. And so when we look at this color over here, we could think about the when we look at the color purple over here, it gives us the idea of royalty, right? And so we have this idea of royalty when we think about the idea of purple. So if we think about, first of all, we think about who the Most High is to Israel. Most High said, you don't need to have a king, right? You're going to look at these wicked nations and you're going to want to be like them. And then you're going to want a king for yourself. So when you do that, which of course is wicked, but when you do it, this is how you do it. And so he tells them, right? But before that, the Most High is their king, right? But for all intents and purposes, Moshe is the first king of Israel for all intents and purposes, right? And so when we look at this and we look at purple being one of these colors that's incorporated in the priest garments or even the tabernacle colors, we think about this purple, we could also think about it as pointing us towards Most High again, and also the idea of royalty, right? So when we think about it in that regards now, again, this color is causing us to think about royalty, right? And so, again, our royalty as Israel is the Most High. Our royalty in terms of being Israel is what? Is Yeshua, who is our king, right? And so, again, so when we think about this idea of this, looking at this color and this color causing us to think about this or that, for these purposes, this color purple causes us to think about Yeshua, right? Let's look at something else here. Let's look at, what does it say in Revelation? What do we have here?
Verse 11.
Wait a second. Let me see here. Revelation. No, not 11. What do I have over here? What does 7? Do chapter 7. 7. Oh no, these aren't. This ain't what I have. I got some red stuff over here. Okay, so one thing we can think about is the idea of these purple robes as being something that's connected with royalty is something that even Rome knew of when they thought about, when they was actually mocking Yeshua whenever they put the purple robes on him, when speaking of him as being the king of the Jews, right? They were mocking him, but they was mocking him based on a thought process that was actually real, right? They made him a throne, a thorn of a crown of thorns, and these robes, which again they were mocking him, but they were mocking him based on something that is in their reality, which is the idea of purple having this significance of royalty, right?
Revelations 18.
Oh, you kids.
12.
Very good.
And 16.
This is why we need. Okay, what's that? What's that say right there?
Merchandise of gold and silver and precious stone and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all citron wood and every object of ivory and every object of most precious wood and bronze and iron and marble. And 16. And saying, woe, woe, the great city that was dressed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls.
Okay, very good. So again, we see this idea of this connection with beauty and stature, I believe there's something in Psalms, Proverbs 30. I believe there's something that's in Proverbs, the virtuous woman scripture that also talks about purples, because it's something that is connected with stature and beauty, royalty, right? And so when we think about what it is, not only is the coverings of the tabernacle there for separation purposes, but they also have these significances that's associated with them to cause you to think about things in a certain way. And one of the things that I want to also just kind of think about as we're going over this is the fact that when we look at righteousness, I say this all the time. We look at hold on. Something that I say all the time. Let me hit you with this real quick. Hold on a second.
This purple, it has something to do with like just wealth and
it's just stature and everything, right? But this is something that we think about, right? Hold on.
This is a direct card exclusive.
Right. And so when we think about righteousness, right? Righteousness looks like something, right? Righteousness looks like something, right? And so when we look over here at these coverings, it's a picture of righteousness. It's causing you to think about things. It's causing you to think about things of, when we think about purple, it's causing you to think about stature and royalty, right? If you're thinking about things from a messianic standpoint, when if we're thinking about royalty, we're thinking about Yeshua, right? And so again, I'm looking at a physical thing, and it's causing me to think about something. And so if I'm looking at somebody who is indeed supposed to be walking around in righteousness, when I look at that somebody, it's supposed to cause me to think about righteousness, right? When I look at somebody who is somebody who's a set apart individual, when I look at that set apart individual, I should think about set apartness, right? That's the thing. Like when we think about the tassels, when we think about the tassels that we wear, right? It causes us to think about the commandments, right? But that's when we look at it. But it will cause other people to look at that and be like, what's the difference with that person that making him do that, right? It caused them even to think about righteousness, right? Because once they find out what the difference is that they're sitting up there, that we're trying to signify by doing it, it causes them to look and think about righteousness. So again, when we think about the idea of this beautification of these things that are causing a division or a separation or a distinction, that's just like us as the tabernacle of the Most High, is that when people look at us as the tabernacle of the Most High, they're supposed to look at us and think about think about things that are about righteousness, right? Mm-hmm. When you looked at the tabernacle, you looked at this beautiful thing. When we look at my Bible at, it's Deuteronomy chapter 4. Hold on, I don't know what verse it is. It's Deuteronomy chapter 4. I gotta look in my Bible to know exactly what it says. Where's my Bible? Let me pull this up.
That's what we talking about.
Yeah. Deuteronomy. Hold on. When the nations look at Israel and see what they doing, it's a wisdom. Oh, it's right here. I went almost right to it. Verse 4, 5 and 6.
See, I have taught you laws and right rulings, as Yahweh my Elohim commanded me to do thus in the land which you go to possess. and you shall guard and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the peoples who hear all the laws. And they shall say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation.
Okay, very good. When we walk around and we walk around being representatives of Messiah, when we walk around in our beautification, in our set apartness, in our way that we have about ourselves that causes people to look at us and see Messiah, right? It says that this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the people. So when the people see us, they see the laws manifest through us. When people see you walking around in wisdom and righteousness, when people see you walking around being a certain kind of way, they look at you and say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation. That's what they should be saying.
That's what they should be
now.
These are some fools. What is they sitting up here doing? They sitting up here fighting about this or that. They sit up, they don't got no type of unity. They don't got no type of love amongst themselves. They don't got none of that stuff, right? And so something wrong with that. They supposed to be looking at us and be like, oh my goodness, what kind of most high, what kind of L do they serve? Oh my, I can't wait to sit up here and get in line with these folks.
No, they say, man, stay away from them people.
They running and hiding, right? And so, but how it should be though, how it should be is what is set up, what we see over here with the building of this tabernacles that make this thing this beautiful thing that you wanted to sit up here and look with all the parts of it, the parts that you was able to see, and the parts that actually you wasn't able to see none of the parts anyway. The only thing you could see was the outside parts. The priest seen the other parts, but you didn't see nothing but the outside. But that was beautiful too, because it had these embroidered angels and gold rings and purples and blues and crimsons, right? And so again, when we think about this and relating it to ourselves, we have to make sure that we're doing the thing that the Most High implemented in even this, just the very making of the tabernacle, was making this thing a thing of beauty that people looked at and said, oh, the Most High is great as a result of it. And we, as the temples of the Most High, should be doing that same thing. People shouldn't be looking at us and seeing the things that we do and be like, what's he about? What's he on? I ain't trying to be nowhere close to what he doing. That's how they look at us. It should be the other way around. And it don't got nothing to do with their level of blindness. It said, because it's talking about heathen nations over here in Deuteronomy chapter 4. Those nations see us walking around in wisdom and understanding, and as a result of that, the other nations is at awe and say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation, based on what they see us doing. And in their wickedness, it don't got nothing to do with their level of wickedness or understanding or any of that stuff. Their wokeness, they see righteousness in us and say, wow, what kind of Elohim do they serve? I want to add them to my pantheon. Right? They should be envious of you as Israel when they look at you and see what you're doing.
That's right.
And so the same thing is true when we think about when we look at this these tapestries that's created over here. The same purpose that was for the Most High making these things is the same thing that we could think about in terms of us walking around here, being a set apart people, being a people that's set apart and distinct from the nations, but in our set apart and distinctness, there still is a desirableness within it that people look at and not only wonder what that is that you're doing, but will actually want to be a part of that thing that you're doing. And so, we had to think about that in as part of our set apartness, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, our set apartness shouldn't look like the world.
Nope.
It can't look like the world because then there's no set apartness. But at the same time, there has to be a level of beauty that's attached to it, because that's what we see over here. We see over here there's a level of beauty that's understandable by those that don't necessarily understand, because we see the priests of Midian, the kings of Midian understand that purple was this royal color. Everybody did, right? So it was a thing that is that's general overall to all the onlookers, that means royalty.
Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of righteousness, in terms of holiness, in terms of us walking around being representatives of the Most High, people should be able to look at you in your connection to the Most High and say, that is a representation of the Most High. That is a representation of holiness. I'm trying to figure out how I can be aligned with that thing over there, apart from understanding, not even having a connection to the understanding, right? Because it's just a general kind of understanding that's incorporated with the set apartness. Okay, with the purple. All right, let's look at let's see here. Let's look at what's next over here. We see, and if we go back to Exodus, we just talk about the colors. We just talk about what these colors represent. Right? 26, 31. Okay, so we see we're talking about blue. We talked about purple. Let's talk about this over here, scarlet material. Scarlet material. Interesting. We look at this, right? It takes two words to say this, and it's not, sometimes we see this where the scriptures kind of double up on words, for emphasis purposes. These are two separate words. Let's look at these over here. Let's see what we got here. If we look at this 84:38. Pull this up here. Is Tola, and Tolaat. Different versions. Oh, what in the world? A maggot.
Interesting.
A maggot? That sounds disgusting. A crimson grub. Anything about grubs? That's the things like with the bugs. What the apes, how they be sitting up there and they take the little sticks and they stick it in a hole and pull out little animals and be eating it off. Or if you on the lag cake, whatever the symbol was hanging out with the little with the little whatever the little animal was that was with the
little weasel or something.
That little weasel and a little boar looking thing eating grubs. He a lion out there supposed to be eating animals, and he over there turning over rocks, eating up these nasty little grubs. And so so when we think about those, that's how we get over to the little cochineal bugs. That's because they're the red ones, right? And so again, we're over this whole idea about this thing, because we're not talking about eating these things, right? We're talking about using it for the purposes of coloration, right? And so again, we look at this as a maggot, it's a grub, right? And then its purposes, right? Do clothes dyed therewith crimson scarlet worm, right? And so we know that this must be this insect, this insect. We know that it's this insect that is being used for the purposes of coloration, right? That's giving us this crimson, this scarlet color, right? And so again, just like blue and purple, we know that this color is being used for a particular purpose to have a particular significance. Okay, so again, let's see what this other word is, because we already seen how this scarlet is coming from this grub, this this worm, right? So let's see what this other word is over here. Shawnee, of uncertain derivation. They don't know where this comes from. It's just kind of this loan word from this other language that they're using. They know that them people been calling it Shawnee all this time, so we just gonna call it that too.
I think Shawnee was that woman wearing red lipstick.
And so, right, we see properly the insect or its color, also stuff dyed with crimson scarlet, right? And so again, this is this thing that we don't even know about as a people.
Right.
We don't mess with this thing. You know what I mean? It's from this, it's uncertain derivation. That means that it's not Hebrew.
Yeah.
It's not our thing, this little thing. This other nations found this bug. I don't know what they do with it, but you know what we can do with it? We can make beautiful tapestries and things with it. Right? They don't even got a name for it. Just whatever them other people call it, we'll call it that too. Right? The Shawnee, right? Whatever. Right? It's this thing that's giving you this color. Right? And so we look at this here. What do let me put this over here. What do the BBD say about this here? Do I got this over? Oh, here we go. BDB. I always say BBD. Scarlet Crimson. Yeah. Okay, look. Properly, the insect Coccus illysis, the dried body of the female yielding coloring matter from which is made the dye used for clothes to color it scarlet or crimson, right? So this, I think, is that bug, that cochineal bug, Coccus illysis bug, that they get the red. It's a huge process, right? To sit up there and get extract this thing out of this bug and sit up here and soak the stuff in it and cause it to be a certain way. It's a lot, right? And so there's a lot that goes into causing the beautification of the separation. Right? There's a lot that goes into the beautification that's used for the separation. And so that's something else. We got to think about this now, right? There's work. There's work that goes into the thing that separates you from unholiness. Right. There's work that goes into you being set apart.
Right.
And just because it's work, just because it's hard, like that don't mean that it don't need to be, oh man, it's it's too hard. I can't do all of this stuff. It's just too much for me.
Yeah.
Think about what they gotta go. They don't even know what this thing is, this red thing. They don't even know what it is, really. They got to go and find this thing, search it out, find out how it is that they derive the particular thing that they need out of it in order to use it, go through the whole soaking process. They probably got to soak it and put it up on and let it dry. They probably need a certain amount of substance to water ratio.
Yeah.
They got to sit up there and figure out what that is to get that color just right.
Yeah.
Hold on, is red a primary color? I don't know if it is or not. Oh, red's okay. So red, so they don't gotta mix nothing in order to get it, but they do gotta get the ratio right, because a little bit of red is gonna make it be pink, right? You want that fullness of it, that fullness of it, so you get that right color. So I'm just saying all that to say there's a lot that goes into it. And so we got to think about this thing when we're sitting up here emulating these things that we find in the scriptures over here, right? The Most High created these things again as things that we look at that cause us to be able to walk in the way that we are supposed to be walking, right? These are pictures that we look and see of how we move forward. Right. And so when we think about this, right, we got to know going into the situation that this walk is, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just about, I say this all the time, it's not just about this light switch. Right. But it's about knowing all of the things that are involved in the light switch. That's just the movement. Right, the movement is just this.
Click.
but we don't think about all the things that's involved in all of that.
Yeah.
There's stuff that's behind the scenes, that's underneath. There's electricity that's involved, currents, right, resistance, right, all of these things, ohms, watts, all of these things that's involved in electricity that we don't even think about. All we think about is or this.
Yeah, I bet you can't nobody jump in the bed before the lights go off.
Yeah, it's just like that, right? And so all of these underlying things that we don't think about. We got to think about those things when we get into, the scriptures talk about, Yeshua talked about counting the costs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You got to count the cost before you go into a thing. There's things that he's going to have us to go out here and do. And it's wise for us to sit up here and figure out all the things that's involved. How much more so when we think about our eternal life? How much more so when we think about the fact that we're representatives of the Master Yeshua? Is that what is it that you getting yourself into over here?
Mm.
Because if you don't do that, you're not going to understand all the things that's involved, and you're going to slip up. And you're not going to understand that you're supposed to be out here looking different with all your clothes of beautification on. You gonna forget about all that, and you gonna think that you was supposed to be just looking regular out here. But the Most High gave these people, Israel, these specific examples of things that they were supposed to look at, and when they looked at these things gave them caused them to think about who he was. When we move forward and look at the priest and the high priest and his clothing, he was given all of these clothes and jewels and gold and blues and purples and crimsons for beauty purposes. And the same thing is true when we look over here with this. The Most High could have just said, you just make this old regular old tent, mm-hmm, and not have all the beautification involved in it.
Yeah, just regular. And
just be functional purpose, just functional and keep the weather out. Just don't have to have no fanciness on it. It's just something that's there. But he goes the extra mile and says, have this beauty incorporated in the thing, and let the beauty be something that is also has the functional purposes. So there's functional purposes that's connected to the beauty. And right, so we look at this red thing that again comes from this bug that they get it from, right? And we think about red, is easy to think about red blood. Right. And we think about red, it's easy to think about blood. When we think about what it is that blood represents for us, right? It's something inside of the commandments, that blood is something that, first of all, represents life. The life is in the blood. Right. And so when we think about the thing that blood represents, it represents life. Yeshua said he's the way, the truth, and the life. And so if I'm thinking about life and what life really is, it's Yeshua. I can't get around thinking about Yeshua if I'm thinking about life. I can't get around Yeshua if I'm thinking about the blood, right? Because the blood that he shed makes it even possible for me to have the blood that he shed, the life that he gave makes it possible for me to have life.
That's why he said, I'm drinking my blood. I'm drinking life.
You drinking life. And he said that to the people. They're like, what? I can't mess with this Yeshua guy. He tripping. He sat there and said, I'm supposed to drink his blood. Come on, I'm out of here. Even the disciples didn't know what he was talking about, but what else? Like, well, what else am I supposed to do? I can't go nowhere else. I got to be there. I don't understand what he's talking about, but I'm sticking in here with it.
I'm just acting like I know.
I'll say, hey, I'll talk to him. I'll ask him about it later.
Remember when we was talking about the lamb that was slain before the foundation?
Yeah.
You know, when I was meditating on that, when I was shown that, like when I stand before the judge, it means standing in front of the foundations. You know, when was this lamb sacrificed? Well, we know that during the times of the foundation of the earth was being created on the Adam and Eve, they committed sin. They tried to cover their own sins by their own doing. It wasn't working. Y'all had to slaughter an animal, right? It doesn't say lamb or ram, but when you go in the second Esdras 5:24-34, it describes him taking one lamb unto himself. Now, slain before the foundation of the earth, shedding the blood, you know, and the ram skin dyed in blood. Rams had to shed blood in order to get the ram skin. So I agree. I mean, of course, any Messianic Israelite going to agree that the blood is a representation of the shedding of blood of Yeshua that atones us.
Yeah. And also, when we think about blood, we think about covenant. Yeah. You can't have a covenant without blood, right? So we see that red, we think about blood, we think about a covenant, right? And Yeshua, of course, being the administrator of the renewed covenant, right? The covenant that he makes with his people Israel, right? And so when we think about, again, this red, we think about life, we think about blood, we think about this covenant that he made, we think about the redemption that's in the blood, right? The way that we're redeemed, the way that we're reconciled back to the Father is through the blood shed by Yeshua.
Remember when that soldier fell down and when he went to poke him and they said water mixed with blood came out and hit him on his face?
Yeah.
That man dropped to his knees on the road. What the heck did I just do? You know, this makes you reverence greatness. This reverence the light that was died for you.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at my tassels, this is very interesting. And you know I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. These tassels stopped me from doing a lot of stuff that I could have got into. You know, there were some times when I was getting ready to do something real violent. I looked down at the tassels and stop. Like, for instance, tell somebody, go pray. You see this? Go pray that I'm wearing these. Thank the Most High that I'm wearing. I never explained it. Why? I just got the heck away. Now, there are some times that I will acknowledge what I did wrong afterwards by looking at the tassels, which provokes fear in my reverence of knowing and a need of repentance. You feel me? That's what these do for me. I can't speak for everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Lori Damiahu. That's what it does for me, man. But it helps me to stay strong. It helps me to recognize when I'm wrong. It helps me to recognize what I should do right. That's the purpose.
And so when we think about again these colors that have a particular representation, from a physical standpoint, these colors are they have these significances that's attached to them that has spiritual significances. Again, from a physical perspective, we see that that's what was instituted with the tabernacle and the things that was incorporated in its construction. But now when we think about the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit that dwells on the inside of us, we still have these physical representations of the spiritual things, but now we also have the spirit that dwells on the inside of us that we have to allow to grow and to build and become strengthened on the inside of us, so that we are changed on the inside, where we have now an internal unctioning and an internal pushing and an internal leading and guiding that causes us to do things based on what's happening on the inside of us, and then the outside is just a physical reminder of what's on the inside. And so at some point there has to be kind of a flip from the external to the internal, and that's the difference between the old covenant and the new covenant. We look at the old covenant, we have these things, the tabernacle, the tassels, all the different colors, the high priest, all of these things that are done by Israel, the commandments, even to cause us to do this or that based on the fact that we have this external thing over here. But when we look at what it is that the new covenant represents, it's the internalization of all of those things, which should be the thing that causes us to be right. And so again, in terms of people looking at us, people should be able to look at us and see our purples and our blues and our reds. But maybe our purples and our blues and our reds and our golds is not necessarily purples and reds and blues and golds, but it's how you dealing with people. It's how you representing out here, right? It's causing people to act different around you. You having an influence on people as opposed to people having an influence on you, right? Maybe that's your purple, blue, and crimson and gold, right? Is you walking around being behaving in such a way that people want to sit up here and act a certain way around you because of what they see in you and what they, how they deal or how you deal with other people. And so, that's what it is to be a light, right? A light is something that is an influencer, not an influencee, right? A light in darkness is the thing that radiates, or a light in darkness is the thing that's seen.
It chases the darkness.
It moves it out the way. It destroys it, right? It pushes it out the way, right? If lightness, it eradicates the darkness all around it. There's a parameter. If you was like a flashlight in darkness, there's a space where you are the lightness, where there's no darkness there. The darkness may be all around, but we're in that particular space where you are, the darkness got to move out the way.
Wait,
It disappears. It's not there anymore. It might be still all around, but it's not there in that space. And then the darkness can't penetrate that space where that lightness is. Now, depending on how strong your light is, depends on how much darkness you're able to eradicate, right? But the where you are as light, there's not darkness there at the same time. And so all of that is we saying the same thing. We think about they looked at the tabernacle and they saw this beautiful thing that represented the Most High. Even if they couldn't understand the fullness, they couldn't see what was behind the curtain. If you was regular, you could never see it. You never seen it, but you knew on the other side of that was something that was holy, right? What apart from understanding, and that's what I'm saying in terms of us walking around in righteousness. A person can't look at you and understand the fullness of what we're supposed to be. But what they can look at you and understand is there's something that is just right about what you're doing, and I want to do that. I want to be that too. Right? Us walking in the light of Yeshua should be a desirable thing. That's what we see over there in Deuteronomy 4, over there when it talks about the nations looking, right? And seeing your wisdom and your understanding, right? That's what it's like when they sit up there and see your purples and your crimsons and your golds, not even knowing where it came from, not even understanding the intricacies and all that goes into getting those particular colors, but just knowing that that is beautiful and giving it up, that beautifulness, right? And so when we look over here at this, I want to go back to 26. I guess we didn't get very far, did we? Because I still want to get back. I still want to look at this verse a little more, because when we think about going back to this verse 31 over here, we think about this idea over here, something very interesting happened in Matthew. Let's look at we're still talking about Exodus 26 and 31, but something very interesting happens in Matthew 20, let's see here, 7 and 51. Okay, let's read. Let's go up just so we know what we're talking about here. Let's go up. Start reading at verse 48. Oh, hold on 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
And immediately one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on a reed and gave it to him to drink. But the rest said, "Leave it. Let us see if Elihu comes to save him." And Yeshua cried out again with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. And see, the veil of the dwelling place was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth was shaken, and the rocks were split. And the tombs were opened, and many bodies of the set apart ones who had fallen asleep were raised.
Okay, very good. So what we're thinking about over here is verse 51, where the veil, the thing that we was just talking about over here, this beautiful thing that was used to separate the most holy place in the tabernacle. It says the veil of the dwelling place was torn in two from top to bottom. Now, when we think about this from a mainstream Christian thought process, it becomes a little bit confusing, because in one regard, we're able to look at this and see that because of the thing that Yeshua has done, now there's access to a place where you wasn't never allowed to be at before. To that, in that regard, that's a true statement. Because of what Yeshua has done, now there's access. There is access to a place where prior there wasn't access to. We know that beyond the veil, only the high priest was able to go and he was only able to go once a year on the Day of Atonement. And by the way, there was a lot that went into him going into that place too, that once a year. There was a lot of preparation that he needed to do, and even apart from the preparation that he had to do, when you think about him and that censer that he had, we know this because, you know, oftentimes I'll have my censer and I'll light some incense on it, right? The thing let off so much smoke, it in this small little place, it maybe don't even want to burn the incense because it just lit off so much, right? And so that's what the priest had to do. He had to make it be so smoky in there that he really couldn't even see what he was doing in there. But that was part of the process of him going in. He had to clean himself. He had to put on his watered down clothes. The priest didn't go in with his beautiful clothes. He put on just his white, just regular white only clothes with none of his beautification, ephod, and his fancy mitre and all of that, the gold, the breastplate. He didn't wear none of that stuff. He just had on just only white when he went into the most high, the most holy place. But I'm saying he goes in there with this smoke making thing where he don't even have unadulterated view when he goes in to the place. So I'm saying all that just to say, even the one that was able to go beyond the veil wasn't just able to go beyond the veil any old way. And so the thing that Yeshua did by making access to the most holy place available, that don't talk about all the things that's incorporated in one's preparation to taking advantage of the access. It only talks about the fact that he made access. It's just like the switch thing. Yes, I'm able to flip the switch, but we're not talking about all the things that's incorporated behind even my ability to do it, and all the things that's incorporated in on the inside. And so never is the idea of holiness removed from a situation. Whenever Yeshua died, it didn't make the Most High be less holy, so you was able to get in. It causes you to be holy so that you're able to go in, because before there wasn't an ability for you to even attain that level of holiness. No matter what you did, you still wasn't the son of Aaron, so you couldn't get in. Like there's nothing that you was physically able to do to yourself to cause you to be able to get into the most holy place. It didn't matter what you did. You could be the holiest one that there was, but you still couldn't get in there because you wasn't Aaron's son. Right? And so there's nothing that you could have done in order to get over to there. But now we have this peculiar thing that Yeshua has done that gives you that ability to be able to be on a particular level to make it into a connection with the Most High. And again, now, if we think about Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 3 and 24, these cherubim was there to make that distinction, to cause that separation, to keep you from getting into the connection with the Most High. And so that veil was that picture of that connection to the Most High. And so now, because of what Yeshua has done, he makes there be access for you and I to get over there. But it's just not any old kind of access, not just like any old person gets in there, right? That part of it is not talked about right here. It's just a matter of fact, the veil got torn. The what actually happens and the significance that represents, you know, we got to put together the the whole of Scripture to understand what's even behind this over here. We got to understand that the thing that Yeshua does for us through his death, burial, and resurrection is about his spirit going on the inside of us, causing us to walk now in righteousness, causing us to inherit his righteousness, and then being able to be connected back with the Father. Him being able to wipe, cleanse us, right, from all our unrighteousness and accepting his righteousness as our own, causing us to be reconciled back to the Father. So, right, all of those things is incorporated in this ability now to get beyond the veil, to get to this place we previously wasn't able to get to.
So the question I'm saying, would it be okay to say then that is one of the reasons why Mashiach said, in order for the Comforter to come, I must go. You know, they will show you all things, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Man, okay. I agree with that.
He's showing, he's saying a thing that must happen.
Right.
Like they want to sit up here and they want to be mad at the one who gave him up, which is absolutely understandable for them to be mad. But what has to be understood is that the thing that Yeshua did had to be done so that we could get to this place over here. He had to die.
Right.
He had to not only die, but he had to raise from the dead, and he had to go back to the Father so that the Spirit could come back and dwell in those that believe in him.
So it's being that it dwells in us, where it once dwelled in the temple. This is one of the reasons why the temple is not within us.
Right. That's the thing. Right. And so understanding that we are the temple, that's what we're talking about over. Right. That's what we understand. And we see this, not only the picture that's represented in what Yeshua did in terms of the veil being torn, but understand the significance of that is the access to the Most High, where it wasn't access for made available to only the chosen few, which was just in a particular lineage, right? It's not even Israel as a whole. It was just a particular family who had that access. And then even when we see it on a broader scale, where we see particular individuals who it talks about being where the Spirit dwelled in them. Mm-hmm. But those was particular individuals. It wasn't as if that was something that was accessible to everyone, right? And so when we look at this now, we see where a difference is made. But again, understand that the Most High is cyclical. He's showing us these things in a cyclical way, teaching us at the same time that, again, having an understanding that this new covenant experience, was the goal from the beginning for us to be able to get back to, the place that the Most High created for us to be in from the very beginning. But again, looking at what he did in terms of having these cherubim being these protectors of the garden, and then with Yeshua dying and this veil being rent from top to bottom, creating this access to the most holy place, just simply dealing with the fact that the access was created, not necessarily getting into the house about it, because that's more in depth, right? But over here, just understanding that this scripture over here, Matthew 27 and 51, is giving you the picture of the admittance fee being paid to make it back into the place where the Most High dwells. And there's a lot that goes along with that. And that's just the slippery slope part that we deal with when you talk to these mainstream Christians. They say the veil's been rent. I could go up in
I
there,
can rock right up
right?
there.
Come as you are.
Yeah.
You might could come as you are, but you better strip at the door over here. As a matter of fact, after you strip, go ahead and wash over here too. And then, matter of fact, after you wash, don't put them same dirty clothes on here. I'm gonna put these clean ones on for you. And then you then come in.
Yeah, it told me salvation is not by works. I just have to have the grace. Man, I said, well, last time I checked, it did says faith without works are dead.
Yeah. Well, again, I say this all the time. It's not that. That's what it say. It's not by works, right? And again, when we think about white, we didn't talk about white, but white being, we look at Revelation 19 where it talks about the white robes being the righteousness of the saints,
Right.
and so the garments that the bride of Messiah has is these white robes. He makes us these white robes, and there's nothing that we do but have faith and belief in what he did to receive those white robes.
Mm-hmm.
But soon as you get those white robes, he gives you the strength, power, and ability to walk around and not to walk in puddles and not to walk in the mud.
It's just stuff there.
Right? And don't get the thing that he gave you dirty. So when we talk about the fact that this thing is by faith and not of works, he gave you this white garments to wear based on your faith.
Yeah.
And it don't have nothing to do with what you're able to do.
Right.
But what he does call for you to do is to continue to walk in the spirit so that your garments don't get dirty.
Right.
Now, when they do get dirty, he pays the laundry bill. Right? When they do get dirty, he pays the laundry bill. But at the same time, he wants for us to walk around and don't be rolling around in pig pens.
Yeah.
He didn't give us these white garments so that we go out and roll around in pig pens.
Yeah. You know, that reminded me of when I was little, and grandma, your mom bought you a nice outfit that you really want to wear tomorrow, and she put you in the little play clothes, and you go out and get them dirty on purpose. And you come back in the house, look, mom, dirty.
I never did that.
I did that many times. Well, boy, go put that outfit on I got you the other day. Yes, I won. Caught me one day. Oh, you going just like that? I was like, huh? She got me one day, man. Now, just imagine
that should be
catching you like that.
That should
Oh,
be
you going just like that.
That should be a lesson to you right over there.
Yeah.
He give you these white clothes. Don't sit up here and get them dirty just because you know he gonna wash them for you when you done.
That's what I said.
That's what these people be out here doing, right?
Yeah.
He gave me this thing, and I don't even got to worry about cleaning it because he gonna clean them up. That means you didn't have a full understanding of what he wanted for you to do with these clean clothes in the first place.
Yeah.
If you're gonna sit up here and just say he gonna wash them for me, right? That's how we think about things.
I can send
from the other perspective, right?
I can send from Monday until Saturday, but Sunday I'm gonna go and ask for forgiveness, give me a whole new outfit.
Yeah.
And some Israelites do that too.
That's the thought process, but that's not the thought process that we gotta have, and that's what we have to understand. We look at this idea of obtaining access to the dwelling place, is that there's a cost that was paid for you to get into that opening that has been made. But when Paul talks about the idea of you being bought with a price, he's talking about the fact that now you have a master who is Yeshua, and now you got to do what he says. So, because that's what you said when you said I believe in him, you also said I'm making you my Lord and Master. And when you said that, you said whatever you say, just like they said back in Exodus, whatever you say, I'll do. When you say that, you saying you are my boss, and I'm going to do everything you say do only. And so that's what we want to think about when we have our blues and our purples and our crimsons and our whites on us, which is the righteousness that we receive from Yeshua, our master, that we are representatives of him, and we walk around as representatives of him, and we do what he said for us to do, and we represent him to the fullest. So much so that when we do it, we cause others to look at us and them say, I want to be like that guy. I don't know what it is about him, but I want to be like that. You walking around looking like Messiah should cause people to pull you to the side and be like, what is it? Especially in contrast, when we think about the contrast, because we know people who knew us. We know people who knew us when, right? And are able to see an individual's transformation and understand. I remember when you used to be doing all kinds of things. Now you don't do none of those things. What happened to you? Why are you doing it like that? Right? And so we have to be. That's why when we look at this idea of the Most High having these beautiful tapestries that he creates as the borders, as the thing that the people see, this beauty, that we have, that we represent, has to be beauty, right? It has to be a thing that people look at and see and desire, right? It can't be something that's just like everything else, because it that don't cause nobody to want to do it, right? It got to be something else that you look at. How in the world did they get that blue like that? How did they get that crimson like that? How did they get those colors to be so beautiful? What did that even mean? What do it mean for you to sit up here and be gone? Why you got so many vacation days? Why you always gone in various points of the year? Why can't you work on Saturday? I'm always getting scheduled for Saturdays. I always got to work every weekend. You don't work no weekends. What is this thing that you're doing? I want to be that, right? Okay, let's see what else we got over. Okay, let's go over. Let me see over here. Let us go. Okay, so if we look down, okay, when we go down, when we see chapter 27, actually, we see with 27, again, it's more. Hold on. Let me go back over there. If we go. Okay, so when we go over back to Exodus 27, not to go through, but when we see what it goes through, we see, I only want to think about, let's see, down to I guess the majority of the chapter really is the putting together of these various we have the brazen altar. I don't want to talk about the brazen altar. I guess I don't want to go into chapter 27 over here, because it kind of talks about something else that we have to add that to the next. Because I don't want to talk about that right now. So when we think about, I think I want to end off with just talking about, I want to go over to a chapter we looked at the negative, but there's also a way to think about it in and the idea of the positive, where I want to end off with in Ezekiel. We're thinking about Ezekiel chapter 16. At least me anyway. It's a terrible chapter in regards to the state in the state of Israel, right? But there's a positive thing that we want to think about in terms of what we're dealing with. And I want to read from 10. We're going to end on this note. I want to read from 10 to 19.
Ezekiel 16, verse 10. And I dressed you in embroidered work and gave you sandals of leather, and I wrapped you in fine linen and covered you with silk. And I adorned you with ornaments, and I put bracelets on your wrist and a chain on your neck. I put a ring on your nose and earrings in your ears and a crown of adorning on your head. Thus you were adorned with gold and silver, and your dress was of fine linen and silk and embroidered cloth. And you ate fine flour and honey and oil, and you were exceedingly beautiful and became fit for royalty. And your name went out among the nations because of your loveliness, for it was perfect. My splendor, which I had put on you, declares the Master, Yahweh. But you trusted in your own loveliness.
Oh, wait. Maybe we just wanted to go to 14 because now it's about to get into the bad part. So we don't even want to get into that part because that's the negative aspects of the fact that the Most High brings us to this place of exceedingly beauty, to cause us to be exceedingly beautiful, right, and fit for royalty. We don't want to get into the part of where that can cause you to go without the proper connection to the spiritual part, because we want to talk about being properly connected to the spiritual part. We want to talk about the fact that once he makes us be a certain kind of way based on a Ruach HaKodesh on the inside of us, he causes us to have all of these things over here that it talks about in verse 10 down through verse 14 and through 14, that it causes us to remain in that state, right? In the physical now, because Ezekiel chapter 16 shows us that we need the Ruach HaKodesh. It shows us that he could put his people in a particular place.
Right.
And then despite the fact that he put you there, you still gonna go astray because you haven't been spiritually transformed on the inside. But what we talking about over here is what he does in us through the Ruach HaKodesh, where we get down to 14 and we keep on rolling. We keep on moving forward in his beauty because of the Ruach HaKodesh. And that's what we want to deal on that, right? Because now we're in a place after Messiah, after Yeshua, we're in a place that fixes this thing over here, because he did all of this stuff for Israel. He did all of this stuff for us already. But knowing that Yeshua had to come and die, all of this stuff was done, and Israel still falls off. We still go astray. But after the fact now, after we had Yeshua come and die and make that split in the veil and create that readmittance fee and pay that fee for us, he makes it possible for us to remain in the state that he put us in. It's interesting. We look at this, we see where he adorns us with all of these ornaments. He put these bracelets on our wrists. He puts the chain on our neck, and not no chain of bondage, it's a chain of beauty, right? But he puts this ring in our nose, right? And he puts these earrings in our rings, which is interesting because when we look back at the Torah in Exodus chapter 21, where it talks about the slave that wants to be a slave forever because he loves the master so much he gets his ear pierced to show his reverence and solitude to his master. Just like we see over here, the same thing is true when we think about what it is that happens over here with this one who's being described, who is Israel, by the way, right? And so we have to, from a new covenant perspective, we got to stop over here at verse 14. We got to stop right here, put the period right here, and don't go no further, right? Because when we keep on going, it just turns bad, because we're talking about a people who are void of the Ruach HaKodesh.
Right.
And so we, as those who are followers of Yeshua HaMashiach and have received the Ruach HaKodesh, have had that seed of the Spirit implanted into our hearts, and allow that Spirit to transform us from the inside out, and allow for that Spirit to grow and lead us and guide us. Let us forever be these ones who have been cleansed by the Master and walk around in the fancy garments that he created, and never to get them dirty.
And loving him to the point of following his commandments.
Right. It's a natural progression,
Yeah.
right? It's the natural progression. That's what really happens when you have an authentic relationship with the Master, is that your heart is changed, right? You no longer want to be this person that's filled with crookedness and iniquity, right? You now want to be everything that the Most High has created, exceedingly beautiful and fit for royalty, right? Based on the message kind of end on is thinking about the fact that the Most High has indeed made us to be a tabernacle, the tabernacle of Yah. He has indeed done some wondrous things. He came in and did one of those makeovers that we see over here on the Home and Garden Network, but in the flesh, though. He took this old rundown place that was condemned and left to be destroyed, and came in and with a open line of credit at the Home Depot, and you got all of the things fixed up inside the new bathroom, a new kitchen, a new living room, new furniture, and all of these things, bedroom, all of the things, right? Right? All of the things that we talk about from a spiritual perspective, right? He took this old wretched thing that you was and transformed you into something that is now fit for royalty to live a life everlasting, right? And so we have to remember this at all times and know that this walk that we live, now that we've been changed, we got to forget about all of those memories that we have of those so-called good times that we lived outside of the Master. Because now you have been made a new creation, and now you walk in the newness of life, right? And now you walk around with your reds and your purples and your blues and your golds, and you exemplify your Master Yeshua at all times. And we got to know that we can't be no false representatives over here, right? Because just like he cut off Adam and Hava from being connected with him over in the garden, he could cut you off just like that.
Yeah.
If you out here just purposefully getting his clothes dirty that he put on you, right? And so we got to remember this, and this got to be the thing that leads us and guides us, understanding that the love that we have, the genuine love that we have for the Most High, is manifest through our obedience to him and all of the things that he has called for us to do. Okay, so we want to go ahead and end on that note and say what?
I would just like to give a special thanks to my brother away from Ghana. His name is Paul Ochoka. Thank you for joining us and listening in. He was very satisfied with the studies, and I'm so glad, and I praise y'all for that.
Okay, hallelujah. Maybe you will subscribe, like, and subscribe to the channel. And if you like what we doing over here, we're gonna try to put some more out every week. And then you can get some more of this. Okay. So hallelujah. We thank everybody for coming, and y'all willing, you'll have a wonderful week, and y'all willing, we'll be back next week to get more into this Torah. Hallelujah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Have a y'all someone.